guys, we have a visual on enemy paratroopers at grid Papa uniform 259er, 119er. I don't know we're onto them. Break.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in today on the Ultimate Rental Paintball channel. The only channel in the whole world that I'm allowed anywhere near. Guys, I have a great episode for you today. I'm doing a review of the all-new Shocker amp. It's going to be a two-part series, so stay tuned for that. But before we get started, guys, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. And as soon as I hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to be giving away a Tippmann Stormer paintball gun to one of you lucky fans. So guys, hit that subscribe button, and as soon as I hit 1K, one of these is going out the door to one of you lucky fans. Happy holidays, guys. Merry Christmas. I'm very excited to get started. Let's get it going. Cue the intro.
So in the late 1980s, there was a company out of Pennsylvania called Smart Parts. They made all kinds of things, including the still popular Freak Barrel Kit and the Smart Parts Ion, which sold a ton for some reason. The Ions were customizable with things like body kits, and even I owned one. I bought the red body kit, which I never put on. Actually, I think there's an old shooting video of my Smart Parts Ion somewhere on my channel. Anyway, in July of 2020, Smart Parts declared bankruptcy. But before they did, they created a separate entity under DLX Technologies, building the very popular Lux line of markers. Smart Parts also restructured and created GOG Paintball, which owns DLX Technologies, and Shocker Paintball, which is a separate entity. Kind of. If you're confused, don't worry, everyone is. When I first bought my Shocker and saw the SP symbol on the grip, I still thought it stands for Smart Parts. The Shocker Amp, or Advanced Modular Platform, was named as such because of the ability to easily convert the marker between electronic and mechanical. The marker is the follow-up to the Shocker XLS, which was introduced about 3 years ago. The XLS was a great marker with a lot of high-end features, but at the mid-end price range. It became even more popular with the introduction of the CVO frame, which allowed the marker to be converted from an electronic gun to a mechanical one. This provided the benefit of not having to buy two separate markers to play two different types of paintball. With the rise of mechanical paintball in the past few years, this caused Planet Eclipse to follow suit and release the G-Tech M170R, which is the mechanical version of the G-Tech 170R. Shocker produced a lineup of markers that were rooted in the design of the Ion. Shocker introduced the SFT, NXT, RSX, XLS, and now the AMP or AMP. The Shocker amp just started shipping. I got serial number 113, so it's really fresh on the market. It only comes in blue, purple, green, red, gray, and black. Those are the only colors. There's no accent kits available as yet. I just received my marker, so let's do a quick unboxing because I'm really excited to check it out. The Shocker amp comes in the same box as the XLS, which is not completely hard, but it will protect your marker. The Shocker is one of the most stylish and compact cases in my opinion. I prefer them to the hard cases by Planet Eclipse, which gets dents in them. It fits in my gear bag and it doesn't take up too much space. It's the same case as the XLS because there was no need to change it. It's fantastic. Inside the case you get just a standard Shocker barrel sleeve. I tend to compare things to Planet Eclipse because they set the bar in paintball guns. The Planet Eclipse barrel covers are much more heavy duty if you care about that type of thing. Personally, I love the little details. You get the quick start guide.
May lead to extremeness.
You don't get a manual, however, it should be available online, although they haven't put the one for the amp on their website as yet. You get the Freak XL barrel kit, which I've said before in my videos is probably the most popular barrel system in paintball. It is auto-cocker threaded, which means it'll fit on most paintball markers. The Freak XL kit is super versatile because you don't need multiple barrel backs, only inserts, which are much cheaper, and they're also easier to store and carry. The Shocker amp comes with a single .687 size Freak XL insert. You get a full Allen key set. Like the Lux keys, these are very much appreciated because they come in all the sizes. Planet Eclipse gives only the sizes that's needed for their markers, which is fair, I guess, but I usually reach for my Lux keys because they have all the sizes. So thanks, Shocker, that's great, especially for a mid-range marker. I didn't actually get any grease with my marker. This is Lux grease with no label. The Shocker grease is a silver tin can, but I wanted to demonstrate what you would get in the case. Probably. And in here you get a parts kit. Hopefully you get more spare parts than I did, especially since the number I got is 0. I posted a picture of this parts kit on Facebook, and actually Shocker Paintball reached out within minutes and they shipped a new set of parts and grease. They're on their way. I'm super happy about the customer service I got from them, so a big shout out to Russell Jackson at Shocker Paintball. Thanks a lot, man. And finally, the marker. Wow, it absolutely looks incredible, from the milling to the nice deep red anodizing. It is fairly flawless. It's absolutely beautiful. Look at this thing. So the marker looks and feels like a typical Shocker. It has the same Shocker shape, but there's some noticeable cosmetic differences. But before we talk about the differences between the amp and its predecessor, the XLS, let's take a quick look at the similarities. So as I mentioned in the unboxing, it comes in the same case and it has the same accessories as the XLS. It comes with the same barrel system as the XLS, which we just talked about, and that's the Freak XL with a single insert. The back grip is the same as the XLS, except slightly slimmer with a more watertight seal. Another thing I'm glad that they didn't change. The overall length and distance from the back of the grip frame and the front of the grip is the same. It has the same regulator assembly as the XLS, although slimmer. This regulator works great, as you'll see out of the box consistency test that I do later in the video. It is a simple twist knob design on the ASA, nothing fancy, but it works great. I personally like the twist knob the best. Many people would disagree with me and say that the Pops ASA is better, or the lever ASA on the Lux. But the Pops ASA doesn't work great with the ball bearing on the newer Ninja tanks. You have to press really hard for the air to engage, and the Lux lever, when it's off, it can easily catch on something like your clothing and engage accidentally. The knob turns the air and releases it very softly, in my opinion. And by the way, the amp isn't a auto purge of air, so there will be some air remaining in the gun even after you turn the air off. To completely release the air, you just have to turn the bolt counterclockwise until it's purged, and then you can turn it back. Much like the XLS, Shocker Paintball decided not to make the eyes or grips toolless. It is a feature that they could have added, but Shocker strategically cut out features to save money. I don't feel like any of the features they cut out affect performance. The reason I even mention this is that, in my opinion, this is a high-end marker. With the exception of only the toolless grips and eyes, everything else on this marker to me is high-end. The barrel system, the toolless bolt, the drivetrain, which we'll get into in a little bit, the regulator, and some of the features such as a toolless solenoid, which even high-end markers don't have. It's no wonder why time and again this gun is considered the best bang for your buck gun on the market. The amp proudly continues this tradition by giving a player a tournament grade marker for an affordable price. I'm happy that unlike other companies, Shocker doesn't release a new marker every year. When they come out with a new marker, they make sure that it's a significant upgrade from the prior version, with new and innovative designs. Having said that, let's take a look at the differences between the AMP and the XLS. There are new milling cuts on the AMP, which are very aggressive and look absolutely amazing. And speaking of the milling, the front grip is more streamlined and the frame is slimmed down, so the grip fits more perfectly on the slimmer regulator assembly. The XLS grips were always a little bit more bulkier, and they looked like an add-on rather than something built in. These, however, are fit to the contours of the gun, so there's nothing sticking out. It all feels like it's one piece. They come off and they can be put back on very easily. For those who like these grips better, they are backwards compatible, so you can use the AMP grips on the XLS and the XLS grips on the AMP if you like it a little bit bulkier. The eye covers are a different shape though from the XLS, and they are not backwards compatible, so you can't use the old XLS accent kits on the AMP, and as far as I know there's none available for the AMP as of right now. They did, however, increase the size of the screw on the eye cover, and that's just to reduce stripping. To take off the grips, there's 3 screws on each side. To access your battery though, you only need to take out the 3 screws on the left side of the gun, and the battery removal is not toolless, and although you have to take out these 3 tiny screws to change it in the middle of a tournament, that wouldn't be ideal, but it's worth the nearly $700 US that you save over spending for a high-end marker that might have a toolless battery removal. Although I said the back grips are the same, they did make the seals on the grips more watertight, so they stick to the frame even without the screws. That prevents water from getting inside your gun, and it also prevents it from getting inside the display screen on the back. They got rid of the battery harness, which is an awesome upgrade. Wires suck ass, and they can get pinched or cut. In the XLS, you had to wrap the wires around to fit all the extra slack. This is now a hardwired battery terminal. To get the battery out, they even put like a little hole underneath, so you can just insert the Allen key and pop it out. So cool. Thanks for thinking of this shocker, because I don't usually have long nails. Details matter. There is also a USB-C connection point for software upgrades. To take off the frame, there's only one rear frame screw. There's no more front screw. The frame now latches into the gun using a latch mechanism, which you simply rock forward and pull off. It's a super cool and clean way of removing the frame. One of the main reasons they did this is so that the frame can be easily switched out with the mechanical frame, which is coming out soon. But a feature like this, for instance, is really innovative, and it's a high-end feature that is not available on some high-end guns. Planet Eclipse markers all have the 2 frame screws to remove the frame, so something like this on a mid-range gun is very impressive to me. And continuing with the high-end motif, there are no eye wire harness or solenoid wires running down from the top of the frame into the bottom anymore. On the XLS, there were wires that ran down from the top frame into the bottom frame, and when you put it back together, you would have to feed them through, and when taking it apart, you'd have to worry about getting them caught on something and getting cut. This is a much cleaner design and a big deal. No one likes wires hanging out, especially not somebody as OCD as me. Again, details matter. So another high-end feature on this gun is the toolless solenoid. This makes it easier to take it out and switch to the valve for the mechanical version. To take out the solenoid now, all you have to do is flip back this lever or clip, and then you just unplug the solenoid and remove it. It's just that easy. There is a new transfer tube that goes directly from the regulator to the bolt system within the top of the frame. They have taken out the exhaust valve from the transfer tube and or at least the frame area, and put it in the back cap with what they're calling the quick exhaust valve, or QEV. We'll take a look at that in a second, but it changes the air path and it takes away a leak point, which makes the gun more reliable. And another reason they did this is to accommodate the milling, although I'm not sure which design came first. The eye is plugged directly into the board as well. Again, a cleaner design with no more wires running down. The connection between the board makes contact at the connector between the frame. They're using gold contacts now, like the Lux, for a better conduction of electricity to power the gun, so that's a cool upgrade there. It does come with the lever locking feed neck. It does have a thumb wheel so you can adjust two different hoppers. I do like the ones on the Empire guns or the Lux guns that don't kind of hang loose, because that does scratch your ano, but again, a small detail. This is fine for what it is. They're now using a more blade style trigger on the amp, although it still has a bit of a curve in it. It's not as pronounced as the scythe trigger on the XLS. The bottom of the trigger guard is straight compared to the curve on the XLS. This was just to prevent from hitting your finger on the trigger guard. They also changed the shape of the trigger. Now it's more of an upright position with a shorter lever. This gives it a more snappier feel. The trigger requires only one screw to take it out, and that makes it easier to both clean and to adjust it. There are 3 points of adjustment on the outside of the gun, which are pre-travel, the post-travel, and I'm guessing the center one is the magnetic resistance. I like a loose but snappy trigger, so I turned the screws out on all 3 until I got it to where I like it, but I always obsess about the trigger feel, so I'm not playing around with it. But it feels really nice and it has a nice snap and click feel to it. With these internal improvements, they've reduced the operating pressure to a super low 110 psi. This has significantly increased the air efficiency, about 25% greater than the XLS. So since we're talking about operating pressure and air efficiency, let's take a look at the new bolt system, which got a complete overhaul. To take out the bolt, you simply twist a quarter turn counterclockwise and this unlocks the bolt, and then you can pull it out. It is a unbalanced spool valve, which to me looks almost identical to the X-Core, and that's been accused of being a copy of the Gamma Core. It is a divorce spool valve because the part that moves the bolt and the part that fires the ball are separate. So they have put what's called a quick exhaust valve, or a QEV, right in the back cap mechanism instead of inside the gas path. It's a little valve that simply allows air to vent out of the bolt system quickly, but seals the air from traveling in the other way. So it's literally just an exhaust system that acts like an air sear. And they've placed it here in the back of the bolt for a quicker, more responsive bolt, rather than at the base of the frame near the front grip. This might not matter very much when you're using it for ramping or speedball, but if you switch to the mechanical version, it does allow for a higher rate of fire because of the more responsive bolt, so it'll keep up with as fast as your finger can pull the trigger. So here I have the Amp Core, the X Core, and the Gamma Core Pro from the CS2 for comparison. The design of the Shocker drivetrain is very similar to the X and Gamma Core, which, in case you were wondering, I'm not complaining about. The Gamma Core is the best drivetrain ever made, Watch my CS2 review video where I say that over and over again. The Shocker amp is reaping the benefits of that design with 25% increased air efficiency and reduced operating pressure down to 110 psi. You now get 3 extra pods on a 77-4500 tank. There's no more low pressure regulator. That means the operating pressure is equal to the force of the pressure on the ball when it's fired. I don't know if it's just a coincidence that that's the exact same mechanism as the Gamma core. I'm just saying. So here I have the X core bolt. It comes apart just like the GP core and the M core. And just pop out the bolt. I'll just line them up so you guys can see the similarities or differences. And just take apart the firing chamber. Some people take out the spool first, it's really up to you. And line up the spools. And take out the bolt guide. And the firing chamber. So as you can see, guys, there's a lot of similarities between these 3 bolt systems. There's a perfect match for each and every part. There are some differences as well. I won't say that they're identical. So let's just go through a couple of those. So the differences between the spools between the X core is the most dramatic. The other 2 spools, the GPU core and the AM core, are pretty similar. As you can see, the X core in comparison to the AM spool is a little bit longer and has a little bit of cuts, whereas the AM core is a lot more similar to the GP core. So if the X core spool is the cousin to the GP core, then the AM core would be its twin brother. But where that height is lost, it's made up for in the bolt guides. As you can see, the AM core on the left has the smallest bolt guide. In comparison, the GP core has the longest, and the X core just shorter than the GP core. So it looks like some of that was made up in the bolt guides. And just finally, the bolts themselves. As you can see, the X core and the AM core are more similar than the GP core. This is the AM bolt. This is the Lux bolt, and they're pretty similar. On the bottom, it's a little bit different. As you can see, there's some more grooving in the X core, whereas it's more smooth on the AM core bolt. However, the GP core bolt is different. It's a lot longer. As you can see, it's longer than the other 2 bolts, significantly longer, and that causes a shorter stroke. But with the shorter bolt, it does shoot more like a Lux than a CS2. It has a deeper and less poppy sound signature than the CS2, which I kind of really like. So there are some differences, and some of them are pretty significant. With the amp core, as I mentioned before, they do have the quick exhaust valve in the back of the bolt system, and again, that's just to improve the shot both mechanically and electronically, but more so for the mechanical version. It will just give it a faster trigger pull. And there is this big saucer of a back cap, which some people have complained about, that it's a big giant monstrosity sticking out from the bolt system. Some people don't like the fact that they moved away from the push button design. However, it works pretty well. I don't mind it. I like it. So it's really all about preference. It's really up to you how you feel about it. Okay, so let's reassemble our bolt system. Let's put the firing chamber back on, and then we'll just put our spool in there and just make sure that it's lined up correctly, and that you can push it a little bit forward and back. Just snap the bolt guide back on top, Make sure not to be too rough with it. You don't want to damage that o-ring. The bolt you can put on top of the bolt guide or inside the can. I just do it this way just because I'm used to it with my CS2. And just twist your can back onto the firing chamber and you're good to go. That's it. Okay, and we'll just put our bolt system back into our gun. Make sure it lines up that little blue thing on the back, quarter turn, and that's it.
What's going on, guys? I'm out here at Flag Raiders Paintball shooting the Shocker amp. This is straight out of the box. I got it chronoed at about 280 and no leaks. I just wanted to see how this thing does in the cold. It's freezing out here. It's about 0 degrees Celsius. For our American fans, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. But let's check this bad boy out and see how it works.
Oh, yeah. 285, 147, 284, 275, 280, 275, 271, 285, 276, 276 again, 276 again, 277, 283, 275, 286, 281.
Perfect. Okay, now watch me shoot this thing. You got it? Oh, I just got a ball right there. See that? Okay, good. So that was the Shocker amp. It's pretty good. I did get a break just in the barrel. I think it's just because of the temperature. But thank you so much. We'll see you on the field. That's it.